Today is the day that we remember. We remember the nearly 3,000 people killed in the 9/11 terrorist attacks 19 years ago. Yet the death toll as a result of that attack and the aftermath continues to climb because firefighters across America who responded to help in New York are getting cancers linked to what was at ground zero. Includes a West Metro firefighter who passed away 2 years ago. Our Ryan Hare spoke to one of the firefighters who was with him that week about how protections against cancer for firefighters have evolved.
Like absolutely nothing you've ever seen before, just the amount of destruction.
Steve Azeltine, a division chief at West Metro Fire, was sent to Ground Zero as part of Colorado Task Force 1. Fellow firefighter Aaron Liebarger was with Steve that week sifting through rubble. Liebarger died 2 years ago from cancer believed to have developed after he was exposed to toxins in New York.
We all miss him dearly, and he certainly paid that ultimate price. I have a great amount of respect for his family, and we miss him a ton as well. He was our family as well.
We quickly realized that big buildings like that don't come down without contaminants and asbestos.
Gary Breeze is the executive director of Colorado State Fire Chiefs. He's dedicated his career to improving the fire service nationwide. 9/11 launched a conversation about the cancer risk, a conversation about how firefighters are up to twice as likely to get certain types of cancer.
Firefighters today are healthier, smarter, and more active than firefighters have ever been before. They understand more and more about the dangers of their job.
Dirty bunker gear is no longer a badge of honor. Showering off carcinogens is a high priority after a fight. And in Colorado, there's a trust supporting firefighters with cancer financially, avoiding long workers' compensation battles.
That's not saying that we've arrived, but certainly the conditions in the firehouse, on the fire ground, with personal protective equipment, and people's attitudes and awareness have evolved in a very good way.
It's too soon to tell if the changes will help prevent losing more people like Aaron Liebarger. And Azeltine says the threat to firefighters continuously evolve, but he's hopeful the challenge will be met for Aaron and all those who stand up to serve in the face of danger.
If that call came again today, I would go today. And I believe very strongly that probably Aaron would as well.
For Next, I'm Ryan Hare.
The CDC says that about 19,000 people who survived the 9/11 attacks or responded to the scene of the attacks has developed cancer in the 19 years since, although there's no way to tie all of those cases back to 9/11. More than 1,000 of those people have died.